And good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time on this Friday morning to tune in to part two of our leadership series here at CEO Effectiveness. I am Gino Collura, and I'm just thrilled to dive in to the topic today, which is executive alignment. Now, this is one that is near and dear to me. And when we think about executive alignment and why it's so important, particularly when we're talking about executive alignment between not just ourselves as an executive, but also our team members and other executives that we rub shoulders with on a daily basis, it is vital that we have a communication platform on understanding and rapport built with our team members that allow for a conducive, efficient, and effective environment. So we're going to tackle just three areas when it comes to this alignment phase, right? We're talking about executive alignment and productivity. So first and foremost, I think we all understand, right, that there's work life and there's personal life. And we'd like to think that there's no overlap between the two, or we'd like to condition ourselves to say, hey, what happens in the office stays in the office. What happens at home stays at home. But we know better, right? They're inherently interconnected. And so if you have a bad day at home, is there going to be a ripple effect in the office? Yeah, probably, right? And vice versa. So when we're diving into how those two are connected, we need to think about the value system that we carry as individuals, right? Contrary to popular belief, we're not computers. When we talk about being wired a certain way, there aren't actual wires in our brain that are interconnecting, right? The concept of neuroplasticity, if you will. And we'll do a separate video kind of diving into what exactly that means. But when we're talking about our values, what it is that we value the most, what it is our team members value the most within the workplace, it's important to know those things, right? And outside of, being on time, being creative, being able to bring, prominent solutions to the table whenever there's conflict or some sort of adversity or challenge that we're dealing with, what is it that fuels and drives my colleagues? And why is that important to understand outside of just what their responsibility is within their particular role? So if we have a grasp and an understanding, we have a much better way of communicating with them because we know from an order of magnitude what makes them tick, right? And so as important as it is to know that about our colleagues, we need to know that about ourselves. Because if we know that about ourselves, we can communicate that to our colleagues as opposed to going through a long, drawn-out process where it's kind of trial by fire and they have to figure it out on their own. And we all know that brings a lot of bumps in the road along the way and a lot of unnecessary challenges as far as team dynamics that can be avoided, right? And so if we're talking about challenges that have to do with interpersonal skills and value systems, if we can establish a very clear-cut understanding on the forefront, establish that precedence, get to know what makes your team members tick as a human being, not just as a colleague or an employee, but as a fellow human being walking this journey of life. So when those align, right, the value systems with our work life and our personal life, we're able to kind of go back and create a diagram of overlapping, right? And so if we can overlap with everything that's going on in our work life, everything that's going on in our personal life, and how our value system as a human interconnects with all of those, the greater understanding we're going to have of certain things that are motivators and other things that may not be motivators, things that perhaps put a bad taste or a poor taste in our mouth. So I'm going to sound off for a second and switch to a slide and give you 10 seconds. I want you to really immerse yourself in what the slide is showing as far as the graphic is concerned, showing the interconnection between your value system, your work life, your personal life, as well as the folks that are fellow executives that you work with. Okay, so as you can see, the overlap that exists there between personal life, work life, and your value system, it's all inherently interconnected. And it's very important that you recognize that about yourself because that will also fuel, right, when we start talking about culture, right, and what culture is, like we talked about in part one, and why that matters so much. So an immediate actionable item we want you to take away from today's segment. So this is something I want you all to do, right? I want you to go ahead and take out a sheet of paper and I want you to make one column that says work life, one column that says personal life, And then another column that says your value system, right? And I want you to start with your value system. And I want you to write the top 5 things that you value most in life, right? So think big picture, this big journey of life. What are the top 5 things that you value the most? And I want you to hop over to your work life. And I want you to think in an order of magnitude from a priority perspective, what is most important to you in your work life, right? And I want you to write those 5 things down. And then I want you to hop over to the other column, personal life. What are the top 5 things from an order of magnitude that you value the most in your personal life? And then I want you to take a step back and I want you to take a look at that piece of paper and I want you to see where there are commonalities within each other, right? And where are things that perhaps may detract you from your value system, things that align with your value system, interconnections between your personal life, your work life, and how that affects the overarching sentiment of who you are as a person. Because when we can identify that, then we start opening up areas of exploration to really push through to your full potential, not just as an executive and as a leader, but more importantly as a person who has an alignment between the professional aspects, the personal aspects that all coincide with your value system, which can cultivate a very positive culture that eliminates boundaries. So, Dr. Gino Collura, CEO Effectiveness. Went a smidge over our 5-minute allotment, but want to bring you guys as much value as possible. Make it a wonderful Friday, and we'll see you guys next week.